Hi, I'm Beertje Vonk. I am an artist. I moved to the UK in the 90s and I live in the countryside here. My background is I'm originally Dutch and I was born in Amsterdam. My parents both are quite artistic types. My dad was a teacher. He was an art teacher. He taught at the Amsterdamse Grafische School, which is a school for where basically in the past you used to didn't have digital way of printing, but you printed manually by hand and setting all the pieces. And he taught art there and perspective drawing and stuff like that. And my mum at the time was doing a course for interior decorating. Later on, she went more into arts and crafts, and she became a teacher to an arts and crafts school. Basically, I'm an only child, and my dad always used to take sort of paper that he had left from school, remnants and stuff like that. And I, would fill my time drawing, sketching. I think he studied at the time for a second degree in art and teaching. And so we had a lot of art books. And I grew up with looking at art dictionaries, and basically the things that made the most impression, and I probably was about 4 or 5, was paintings. We had a separate book with color reproductions of the paintings of Anthony van Dyck. Anthony van Dyck is, he painted Charles I, his family, his children, and there was loads of paintings of especially the children with the dogs and stuff. That made a huge impression. I remember a huge, I think it was like a Great Dane, and there was like a beautiful Spaniel. So these are all paintings that the way it was painted, I thought was fantastic. Then there was this painting that I loved by Botticelli, the Birth of Venus. I just loved the way the hair was painted. So I suppose when I was growing up, I always used to love the way things were painted, how they were done. I remember this strange artist Botero with his strange shapes, and I remember the paintings of Dali. Now this must have been when I was quite young. I would be at home and I'd just be looking at these books. So yeah, basically art always made a big impression. And then my parents always took me to exhibitions as well. At the time we lived in Amsterdam, and I remember going to a pop art exhibition with strange, huge plastic switches, and I think it was Klaas Oldenburg, and so basically I was always taken to the Rijksmuseum, which is you've got really, well, obviously Rembrandt and other painters. So I was always exposed to fantastic art. So basically that was really what brought me up. And I think I now actually quite often I've been asked to do commissions to paint dogs, and it's just quite odd, because I do have a great connection with dogs, but I always think, I wonder if seeing all these fantastic portraits of dogs by Van Dyck has influenced me. I think it probably has. So my biggest influences, really, there are several. as far as drawing is concerned, I absolutely love the early drawings of Hockney. I went to an exhibition in a museum in The Hague, the Gemeentemuseum, and no, I was wrong, it was in Rotterdam, and the drawings were just absolutely superb. These must have been from the 70s, and they were just so great, with the lines and everything. It was just fantastic. So I will always remember that. And some of the drawings by Rembrandt, you see a little figure with, just a line that shows the ankle and stuff. And I try to do that when I do ink drawings, pen and ink drawings, and I just... yeah, it's something that really influences me. And lately, I've been following Tracy Emin on her Instagram, and I never really warmed to her, but I must say, either I got older or wiser, or she got, I don't know, different, maybe not, but I just, there's something to it, quite an... something that I think really speaks to me. So that is one of the things with my drawing as well that I'm really influenced in. Then with I do several things. I do watercolors as well and oil. And as far as my watercolors is concerned, I do actually do very precise watercolors. But the people, artists that I really admire, who are so loose with what they do, is obviously William Turner. But there is a contemporary of him who died quite young, and Turner used to say, this chap was called, a friend of his was called Thomas Girton, Girtin, and Turner used to say, if Girton would have lived, because he died quite young, I would have starved, because he was so fantastic. And I've seen some work of his in Bath in a museum, and I was just blown away. So that's for the watercolors. The oil painting, there are a couple of them. I don't know if you know in Holland, you have a group of painters who painted at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, called the Hague School, the Haagse School. There are a couple of painters there, Matthijs Maris, Jacob Maris, Willem Maris. So they've just got such a fantastic feel of landscape. And if you look at, there's another one which is much older, Meindert Hobbema, Hobbema is a painter very famous with his painting Het Laantje van Middelharnis, which is the lane in Middelharnis, and you see just such a simple landscape with a couple of trees. Anyway, I love it. That's from the almost 1700. But so there's a couple of basically impressionist. These are basically impressionist painters, and if you take Impressionism even further, I just love the paintings by Howard Hodgkin. We went to an exhibition in Oxford, and just fantastic. So I don't know if it does influence me. When I paint, I think of that. I think of achieving something that they're trying to achieve. So so that's basically my big influences. So yes, what I'm focusing right now on is basically art practice-wise. I'm looking for more exposure, more venues, open exhibitions. I had a very good couple of years, even during the lockdown and COVID, where I was selling a lot through Instagram, lots of commissions, and that has slowed down a lot. So I think I just need to go out there and, I've also applied for a couple of open exhibitions. I am through, for instance, the first selection of the Chelsea Art Society Open Exhibition. I don't really know if I get through to the second, but I don't know. And I am applying to galleries if they want to take my work on. there's a gallery near me that I have some work now, which they're gonna hang up and they're gonna promote me a little bit. So I think I just need to do more than that, because basically Instagram is not really working as well as it used to. Everyone knows that, basically. As far as painting and drawing wise is concerned, I am now focusing on. I really want to do some really big drawings. I mean, big. I love these sort of huge things. Haven't got a really big studio, but I would love to do that. So that I want to do basically drawings of nudes, big nudes, and of dogs, and then I also want to do things that are probably more feasible, which is a whole series of small, I mean really small landscapes, which I did in January, and I found it very liberating. Basically, they're just tiny sketches, about 15 by 20 centimeters. And because they're so small, you just don't feel inhibited, because you think, well, what can go wrong? It doesn't really matter, does it? And so I that really helped me develop my painting style. So I do think I should continue to do that. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. The biggest challenge of being an artist, well, first of all, obviously, that goes without saying, to keep your body and soul together, so getting an income. And that I have sort of done throughout the years by either teaching craft and French. I speak a couple of languages. I also have had periods where I just took a full-time job because I just needed the income, so there was very little time for painting. I continue to do some drawing and stuff, but so that is always difficult. But basically, once you get painting and drawing, what is the biggest challenge, I think, is also just silencing your own inner critic and keep being positive, because it's so easy to, I have it, many people have it. You have something in your head which is what you're aiming for. This is what you're going to do with this painting. This is what you're going to do with this particular subject. And, you've got it all in front of you in your head. And then when you reach almost at the end, you think, sometimes the painting tells you that it's sort of finished, and you think, okay, it's okay, but it's not as fantastic as I thought it would be. So not to give yourself too much of a hard time. You always have to be critical, but there comes a point where some people just I just messaged a girl today who's a really good draftswoman, and she does great stuff, and she said she'd had such a hard time, and she hadn't done anything. She's completely lost her impetus to do any drawing or painting, and that can happen. And I just wrote her and said, look, we've all had this, and you're a great artist and you do fantastic drawing, so just give yourself a break. It's really what I should tell myself sometimes. I sit here and sometimes think, why do I even bother? This is terrible. But you get through it. So the biggest challenge is really yourself, to get over your own insecurities. Maybe other people don't have that. I don't know. But I think I would say that is one of the main things. So what would I advise my younger self? I don't know. I think life can be unpredictable. I've had periods where I couldn't paint because I was just working a normal job. And I think if I would have known that when I was much younger, I would have completely panicked. But actually, I survived that completely, and I enjoyed it. And I think everything you do in life is interesting. So I think you should just not be afraid. And trust in whatever comes your way. take opportunities. I think when I was much, much younger, I remember going to London and trying to get into galleries. And at the time, that was in I think the 90s. The only area was like a couple of galleries around Cork Street and stuff. And I didn't get in. Some of them were interested, but only for a group exhibition. And I thought at the time, no, I don't want to be in a group exhibition. That's just rubbish. And it was in the summer, and I thought that's rubbish too, so I don't want to do that. I think younger people, I would just say, just do it. What can you lose? You can't lose anything. So be there for the opportunities, and just go with it. And if you are creative, I think you will always be creative. So if you have a period in your life where you don't paint, I wouldn't really worry too much. You know, I didn't paint. I worked for about, maybe 10 years or something. In the end, as a project manager in a company which had nothing to do with art whatsoever, and then I left there, and then I got ill actually, actually that made me think. I actually got cancer, and I thought, what would I regret if I wouldn't survive this? And I thought I haven't really used the talent that I have. And from that moment, I just thought, do whatever you think is important. Don't waste more time. So, don't waste too much time. Just do it, and take any opportunity you can. That would be my advice, really. Have I ever tried unconventional mediums and techniques? When I was at art school, I did screen printing, and I loved it. I have got actually a screen printing kit in the garage that I still need to do, and I don't know. I think I would love to have a proper. I just basically I paint in our spare room, and I've got enough space. I've got a big hallway as well where I could do big paintings. But I actually really haven't got a space where there is water access and there's clean floors that you can keep clean and stuff like that. Because I would love to actually do things like dry point etching and some etching. My dad used to do that. My dad was an artist, and it's sort of like if I would do it, I would know what to do. So I would enjoy that. But you really need a separate room that can be really stinky and messy, and where you can spill stuff up on the floor. And I don't really have that. So so in both cases, I'm thinking of maybe doing that, but then going to probably somewhere where you can actually screen print or etch, and it's like somewhere near here in a nearby town or something, which is probably, but ideally you would like to just have your own studio, your own place. So maybe when I get some money together, I'll buy myself a big shed, and so I can work in that. So, but to be honest, unconventional medium and technique, it's sort of not really unconventional. It's still, standard sort of like etching, screen printing. So in that sense, not really. But I'm interested, and I follow a lot of artists on Instagram, and when I see things that are interesting, I think I should really try that. So I definitely would like to be able to do more unconventional stuff. But at the moment, I'm sort of a little bit stuck in the situation that I'm in. So there you go. Do I listen to music when I'm painting or drawing? I do sometimes. I have this sort of periods where I get totally into some sort of music, like sometimes you just need to energize yourself a little bit. Like I've had a bit of a slow time lately and lost a little bit of my mojo, and then I would definitely go on, for instance, YouTube or whatever, Spotify, and I get some sort of rousing stuff like don't know, Rolling Stones or something, but and then I would play it again and again, and then, like, for instance, till my boyfriend is sick and tired of it, he doesn't even want to hear the Rolling Stones anymore, or then I stop and then I'm completely quiet, and I just concentrate, and in my head, because I've played these songs the whole time, I just hear these songs, there's also the Eagles, which I love, but now I can't listen to it anymore because I listen to too much. So this is old stuff, but what I also like, and I would really recommend that, is if you go on BBC Sounds. And then you go on BBC Three. There's a program called Private Passions, and it's really interesting. It's a presenter called Michael Barclay, and he speaks with people. I mean, all kind of interesting people. Not just composers, but scientists and whatever. Mountaineers and all kind of stuff. And so they talk to him, and then they say what inspired them, and then what music meant something to them. And so you hear all kind of different music, and it's very interesting. But you have to be in a certain mood to be able to actually listen and also paint. And sometimes it just takes too much out on you. You can either listen or you can paint. So if you do all kind of stuff, like, for instance, if I set up if I'm doing a portrait for someone, and I'm in the first stages, I don't mind having music on because, it just keeps you going and stuff. But if you have to be doing very detailed work and it's very concentrated, you just got it to be quiet so that you can really work, very precisely. So, yeah, so the answer is, I sometimes listen to music, I sometimes absolutely not. The best reaction to my artwork, well, I don't know, to be quite honest. I've had people incredibly happy with my work, and also I've had people so emotional and so happy that they actually cry. It's especially when, I do commissions and people get their children painted, and then they look at it and they just get very emotional, and so I don't know if that's the best reaction. Maybe for them, I don't know. It makes me happy that I can actually do something for people, and that I can actually have people that I paint pet portraits for, and actually I have painted for someone whose dog, basically, I paint lots of dogs whose dog died, and I painted, I think, 2 paintings for or something, and she was sort of sending me messages saying she'd been crying and she thought it was so fantastic, and one of them sent me flowers, which I thought was very sweet, to thank me. And the thing is that I'm sort of grateful that I can actually do this, and that people get very attached. So I get very attached to my animals. I've got dogs myself, and had 2 cats, and I've got now 1 cat. And you have a connection and a relationship with them. And especially when you have a huge dog, it's like another person has just left, and it just, you feel so bereft. So if I can then paint a painting that fills that gap and soothes that heartache a little bit, I think that is sort of the best reaction, I think. So I would say the crying, not so much, but if I can actually help them to deal with their sadness and stuff, I think that's fantastic that I can do that. So yeah, I would say that would be the best thing that I've seen with my artwork. What do I want people to take away from my artwork? I had to do a artist statement for one of the open exhibitions. that I applied for this year, and because it's always hard to come up with it, because you're basically painting and you're saying with paint what you can't really say with words. So anyway, I came up with an artist statement, and I think it sort of does say what I really want with my artwork and what I want people to take away. So my artist statement sounds a bit, well, not poncy, but it does sound as follows. It says, my aim, so what I want to achieve with my work is to sort of capture a distilled magic that we can find in nature and also in everyday life. And I tried to do that. And I try to, so basically when you do a landscape or a portrait or something, you distill it. So people sometimes confuse with, okay, it doesn't look like a photo, or it doesn't look like a photo. That is not, a painting is not like that. It's sort of like a distilling of my feelings about the particular subject and what it gives to me. Anyway, so there's some sort of magic in some things, like in a face or in a landscape or something, and so that's what I'm trying to put across. And the other thing I would like to paint or put across is that the sort of fun and the joy that we experience when we engage with the world around us. So I go on walks with my dogs, and I look at nature and I look at the landscape and I look at the clouds and stuff, and there's this huge feeling of we're all part of something, and we are part of this wonderful thing which we call our world, but it's nature or God or whatever you want to call it. And I think it gives us a huge sense of joy, and that's what I want to, without becoming all sort of like God botherer, but that's what I want to put across with my artwork. So there you have it. So upcoming events, I can't really give you any at the moment, because I'm right in the middle of applying for all kind of open exhibitions, and I've gone, as I said, through the selection process, but I'm not at the final stage. So but hopefully I can put on my Instagram a couple of open exhibitions that I will take part in. There will also be something with the gallery that I am now working with, but again, I have no dates for that. You can find me on both Instagram as well as Twitter, as well as on my website. My website is www.beertjevonk.co.uk. That's BEERTJEVONK. On Instagram, it's at Beertje_Vonk_artist. And on Twitter, it's at Beertje Vonk Art altogether. So that's where you can find me, and I am very often on my Instagram, also on Twitter, but most of my updates I actually put on Instagram. So there you have it. And thank you for listening. And I'm sorry if it was a bit long, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this audio tape. And there you go. And speak to you soon.